Cool. Okay, so today's weekly training is a live Q&A. If you have any questions related to fitness, health, nutrition, sleep, energy, anything related to that, then you're going to get answers here. So I posted earlier in the group and also created a group chat. So we have some questions there already. So let me just get that pulled up and
hey everybody, you'll should be
mute
there
Facebook
already.
real quick. Cool. So if you guys did not ask any questions, but you have any, just leave a comment in the live video and I will answer them. Okay. All right, so the first question we have is from Chase Colton. Chase asked, let's see, what is your stance on HIIT, HIIT, or Tabata workouts? So those are basically the same thing, HIIT and Tabata. And there's a big difference between HIIT versus what I teach, HIIT. Big difference. In fact, when you think of HIIT versus HIIT, those two hits, don't even put them in the same category because they're totally different. But on the topic of HIIT and Tabata workouts, in terms of how they are traditionally done, I don't think that they're very effective from a transformation perspective when it comes to transforming your physique, and definitely not a very great strength stimulator either. The way that most people do HIIT exercises or workouts is basically like circuit training. They're basically just they're focusing on cardio. They're trying to sweat in their workout. They're trying to keep their heart rate up in the workout. And we know from the science, and I covered this in our group, so I have a whole training and a whole guide on this topic specifically, but we know the science shows that when you focus on cardio versus resistance training, you're not going to get as good of a physique, or definitely not as good of strength results. And without going into super detail, because again, I already have a training video on that and a guide. If you want to watch or read those, just let me know. But we know that when you focus on cardio, you are doing a couple of things that hinder your results. You're basically telling your body to become skinny fat, because the main fuel source that your body uses while it is performing cardio is dietary fat. But because that's the predominant fuel source that it uses, it basically also tells you, hey, this is the main fuel source that we use, so let's store more of it. And what doing cardio also does is it focuses on, you basically have three muscle fiber types. It's okay, so to put it in simpler terms, you have two, and it's type 1, which are slow twitch, which is what your body uses while you're doing cardio, and you have type 2, which is fast twitch, which is what your body starts to use when you're lifting heavy and hard. And there's a big difference between type 1 and type 2 muscle fibers in terms of their potential. Type 1 muscle fibers are just used for endurance. That's why they're great for cardio. But they have a much smaller size and strength capability. So if you're just focusing on the type 1 muscle fibers, you're not going to get that transformation. And then again, doing cardio also basically tells your body to become skinny fat. Because in cardio, you're not using the type 2 muscle fibers that are responsible for power and strength and muscular size. It also tells your body that, we're doing cardio pretty frequently, and these type 2 muscle fibers are kind of bogging us down. So one of the ways that it tries to make itself more efficient so that cardio becomes easier and easier over time is it basically down regulates your type 2 muscle fibers. They get smaller and smaller and smaller. And again, it prioritizes the type 1 muscle fibers, but they do not have nearly as much size or strength potential as type 2 muscle fibers. And so that's all based off of, the way people typically do HIIT and Tabata workouts is they're just trying to do it for cardio, basically. They're trying to keep their heart rate up. They're trying to burn fat, burn calories. So it's basically just cardio. So I don't recommend it. Now, what I do recommend instead, and again, this is completely different, totally different category from HIIT. I recommend HIIT, high intensity training. And basically high intensity training, in essence, means that you are working out very, very hard, and preferably, if you want to be more efficient, you're training to failure. That means if you're doing leg press, you keep pressing until you literally cannot press it anymore. You fail. That is training to failure. And the reason why that is so effective, again, boils down to, well, let me back up. So if you perform your high intensity training, your sets, like say you're doing leg press, and let's say you start off kind of slow, you're doing slow reps. I'm just going to use bicep curls because that's what I can show right here. Let's say, you're just going up slow and down slow. Because you're going slow and because the weight is easier at first, you're going to be using your type 1 muscle fibers first. But once those fatigue, because you keep pulling, then your type 2 muscle fibers are going to kick in. And those are the fibers that are responsive, that have the greatest muscle size potential. They're responsible for strength and power. So if you first fatigue the type 1 muscle fibers, you're going to stimulate some growth there. And then if you keep going to failure, because remember, the type 2 muscle fibers don't kick in until it gets really intense, then you train to failure, you're going to maximally stimulate your type 2 muscle fibers as well. So with this style of training, you are targeting both your type 1 and type 2 muscle fibers. And so you're getting the best of both worlds in terms of just maximizing your muscular size gains and your strength gains. Also, from a cardio perspective, there's some new science that has come out that basically shows that you don't have to do cardio specific exercise in order to target your cardiovascular system. I mean, it makes sense. And the reason why it makes sense, now I realize not very many of you are familiar with training to failure, and that is totally normal. I found even most intermediate and advanced lifters don't know how to train to true failure. So it's a learning process for everybody. But once you know what it looks like or what it feels like, whether you have a coach who knows what it looks and feels like, guiding you along that process so you're not wasting time trying to figure it out by yourself, then what was I saying? Sorry, I get lost on these like little tangents and then I forget what my main point was. Cardio, getting your cardiovascular system. So when you train to failure, like let's say you're leg pressing and you keep going until you literally cannot push the weight anymore. Like obviously your muscles are tired, you fully fatigue them, right? Because they couldn't press it anymore. But you're also targeting your cardiovascular system. When you finish a set like that, it's hard to breathe. Your heart is pounding and racing. In a way, HIIT training, high intensity training, is like sprinting. And I'm sure some of you guys are familiar when you make the comparison between a sprinter and a marathoner. A sprinter is short distance, but very, very fast, powerful runners. They run as hard and fast as they can for like 20 to 30 seconds. It depends on how long the track is. but they sprint as hard as they can. Whereas marathoners, they're going for endurance. They're trying to last as long as they can. And so we know, I'm sure if you guys have ever like sprinted as hard as you can, like even though you only sprinted for 20 seconds, your heart is pounding. And typically the way people sprint is they'll sprint for 20 to 30 seconds, they'll rest maybe 30 seconds to a minute, and then they'll sprint again. That is what high intensity training basically is. It is the same concept, except it is with weights so that you can shape your body the way that you want to shape it. Okay, cool. Let's see what other questions we got. Colton says, how many Snickers does it take to fly a spaceship to the moon? The number does not exist. I doubt we could even make that many Snickers to fly a spaceship to the moon. Yeah, that wouldn't be very efficient. Unless like we design a spaceship that can burn fuel, kind of like Back to the Future. That vehicle uses trash which would be great. That would be amazing if we could do something like that. But yeah, the number does not exist. Okay, let's see what other questions we got. If you guys have any questions, just leave it in the chat. So Marissa asks, eating habits for better gut and lifting for a flatter tummy. So let's cover the first one, eating habits for a better gut. So that one's really key and crucial. There has been a significant rise in people having digestion issues, specifically IBS, which is irritable bowel syndrome, which really the symptoms can range from a variety of things. So yeah, gut health is so important, not just for like your gut, but for your overall for your overall health. It is often quoted from doctors who say that disease starts in the gut. So it's great for overall health. And then it's also, if you have bodybuilding goals, if you have strength goals, if you have fat loss goals, bad gut health can negatively affect all of that. So it's super important. So yeah, how eating habits for better gut health. So the first thing, when people ask questions like this, I always go to the foundations. When it comes to anything in your life, whether you have fitness goals, bodybuilding goals, fat loss goals, always go down to the foundations. So, a lot of people, they want to start with supplements, which supplements can be really great and powerful, but I like to think of supplements as like the cherry on the top. So it's at the top of the pyramid, but you have this huge base down here that has more impact than, just a little bit at the top. So always start at the foundation, and that's going to be your nutrition. So you would want to eat predominantly whole foods, and whole foods are basically anything that grows from the earth or roams the earth. So that would be like fruits, vegetables, that would be animal meat. You could do grains, but I would actually avoid wheat altogether because modern wheat is not what wheat used to be. We've genetically modified it so much that it has so much more gluten than the original form of wheat. And gluten has so many negative side effects. It can actually eat at your intestinal lining. It can lead to inflammation in your gut and your body. So many things. So I actually don't recommend anybody eat wheat, but if you have a hard time avoiding it altogether, then I would say limit it as much as possible. So yeah, start with the foundations with your just eating whole foods. And then, and a lot of people don't know this, I have spoken to many gut coaches, and I'm actually surprised at how many people don't talk about this. And that is what ingredients that you should avoid if you have existing gut issues or if you want to prevent gut issues in the future. I don't have all of them memorized, but I do have them written down. I have them in some guides. So if you guys want those lists of ingredients that you should avoid that actually directly harm your gut, let me know and I'll send it to you. But just off the top of my head, you want to avoid citric acid. Citric acid is a very common food additive that is used for different purposes. To add like acidic taste to foods. You often see it in like sour candies, but not just that. They put it in everything. Um, and what citric acid does is it actually eats at your intestinal lining. And when your intestinal lining deteriorates from the inside, you have these junctions in your intestines that are basically like these little fibers almost that they're supposed to be tight together. But when your intestinal lining gets eaten at, those tight junctions separate. And when they separate, that allows foods, debris, toxins to leach through the intestines into your bloodstream. And so you end up with this chronic inflammation, many gut issues and health issues. And it can lead to, over time, bacterial overgrowth in your intestines, which can cause so much problems just in and of itself as well. Another one that you would want to avoid is silicon dioxide. Silicon dioxide is often used as a free flow agent. And I don't remember exactly the effect that it has. Again, I have all of these written down in some guides, so if you want them, just let me know. But science has shown that I think what it does is it leads to intestinal inflammation. And by the way, guys, acute, like temporary inflammation is a totally normal and good process in the body. You do want minor occasional inflammation for different body responses. Like, for example, after you do an intense workout on your muscles, your body naturally, the muscles will become inflamed the next day or two. And you actually want that to happen because if you do not have that muscular inflammation, your muscles won't grow. And so that's why I don't recommend people do things like ice baths or take ibuprofen around training sessions, because both of those things negate that inflammation in the muscle, which is going to prevent muscular gains. Now, the reason why people do the ice baths is because that reducing that inflammation does promote faster recovery. So if you don't care about the muscular gains and you're just looking for performance, like let's say you have a competition coming up and you're really sore or something like that, and you just want to recover really quickly, then yeah, the ice baths are a great idea. But from a muscle building perspective, and overall, I would say even a strength building perspective, long term, you don't want to do things like that. Cool. And then Marissa also said lifting for a flatter tummy. So remember, guys, how earlier I talked about cardio versus weightlifting and how your body responds to that? Well, you basically, if you have any fat loss goals anywhere on your body, you want to do weightlifting, you want to do resistance training, and preferably the most effective and efficient way to do that is with HIIT, high intensity training, like what I explained earlier. Now, you can't, there is a way to spot reduce. It's not in the conventional way that most people think, because you can't spot reduce just by exercise alone. But that's a totally different topic altogether. So yeah, what I would recommend for that is just focus on weightlifting, lift hard and heavy. Marissa, you are one of my clients, so you already started on that, so that's awesome. So keep up with that. And then I also did a training, I think last week, where I talked about how to make your waist smaller. So there's a training and a guide on that. If you want either one of those, just let me know. But yeah, just to summarize, you would want to, one thing that you can do are stomach vacuums. Stomach vacuums They work the innermost abdominal muscle. I think you have 4 abdominal muscles, but stomach vacuums work the innermost abdominal muscle called the transverse abdominis. And that muscle basically acts as a sort of inner corset, basically holds your organs in together, like in tighter and in smaller. And so if you work that, you can basically improve that look. In fact, a lot of competitive bodybuilders will do stomach vacuums because they don't want to get that bloated stomach look that some bodybuilders do get. So it helps to prevent that and just make it smaller altogether. And then you can also work your pelvic floor, and that applies to both men and women. I know people typically think of, oh, working your pelvic floor is a woman thing. No, men can do it too, and they should do it for a variety of reasons. But that helps to lift things as well. And this one's a little, I know this isn't going to be for everybody, but this one I do recommend if you have the patience to go slowly with it and long-term with it. And that is waist training with a steel-boned corset, not a cincher, a steel-boned corset. There's a huge difference. So yeah, guys, if y'all want more details on all of that, I do have a training specifically on making your waistline smaller. So a training video and guide. Okay, so we also have Ronald Mercado asks, does lifting really give better results than cardio and why? Okay, yeah, I covered that one earlier. So good question, Ronald. And let's see, what else do we got? Okay, so Aaron Shapiro asks about joints and ligaments. Let's see, like strengthening joints and ligaments, specifically the shoulder. So yeah, Aaron, to strengthen joints and ligaments, well, you would want to strengthen the muscles around them as well. And resistance training, specifically HIIT, is going to do that extremely well and efficiently. So Aaron, you are one of my clients, so you do have a strength training program. I know you just started, but yeah, once you get started with that, that'll help a ton. And also, I think it was 2 weeks ago, I did another training on the safest way to train that is still extremely effective, just as effective, in fact. And that is performing your reps slowly. So even if you perform your reps slowly, like say you're doing bicep curls, let's say you take 5 seconds up, 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi, 5 Mississippi, and 5 seconds down. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi, 5 Mississippi. When you perform your exercises that slowly, if you still train to failure, you will get just as good of results as lifting with a conventional rep speed. Most people typically lift like maybe 1 second up, 1 second down, or 1 second up, 2 seconds down. That's most often what you'll see in the gym. But a mistake that many people make, I see this all the time, is people will hoist the weight up and down. So they're like kind of like yanking their body, like moving back and forth. And they're basically cheating with momentum. When you use momentum, which is created by other parts of your body, you're not fully working the muscle. You're basically giving your muscle a break because you're cheating with momentum. And with momentum, we also know there's the effect of inertia, which is a body in motion stays in motion. So if an object stays in motion, you don't have to work as hard, right? Because it's staying in motion. I mean, eventually it slows down because of natural resistance along the way. But you're making it easier on your muscles. And so you're not working effectively. And so the other problem with that, when they are using momentum, they're hoisting the weight up, they're moving their body all around. A great example of this are kipping chin-ups or pull-ups. I see a lot of CrossFitters doing that. And they're basically doing that to make it easier so that they can do more chin-ups. But if you're making it easier on yourself, you're not fully fatiguing the muscle fibers, are you? No, you're not. You're more so working your cardiovascular system. I mean, you are working your muscles, but it's like a blend of cardio and resistance training, but you're not training to failure. So it's not very effective or efficient from a muscle building or strength building perspective. In fact, you're more so working the skill component of it, which skill does not transform your body, just makes you more efficient at the movement, whatever movement you're doing. So when they're yanking the weight, they're hoisting the weight, cheating with momentum, they're also placing a lot of stress on their joints, ligaments, and tendons. People get hurt all the time in the gym due to lifting like that, not doing their exercises with control and just focusing on the muscles. Training to failure is not dangerous at all if you are training the right way, which is controlling the muscle. So, Aaron, the best way to strengthen your joints, ligaments, and tendons is to train safely, doing your reps slowly, which you're going to learn all of that from me once you start your program. Training to failure so that your muscles grow around the joints. And that resistance also is going to basically challenge your joints and tendons to get stronger as well. And then another thing that you can do, Aaron, from a nutritional side of things is eat a lot of protein and predominantly whole foods, because if you're eating whole foods, you're not going to have as much of an inflammatory response. If you're eating junk food, a lot of junk food has processed seed oils, which are PUFAs, polyunsaturated fatty acids. Those are extremely inflammatory. Among other side effects, like making you less insulin sensitive, which means you store fat more easily, all kinds of problems. And then you'd also want to eat a lot of collagen containing products. So that would basically, if you look at the essence of something, collagen is found in tendons, it's found in bones, it's found in ligaments. So basically, if you eat the whole animal, if you eat the ligaments around the joints and the muscles, that contains a lot of collagen. Now, if you don't like the way that stuff tastes, which I do not blame you, I do not like eating that stuff, then you can supplement with a collagen powder. That's what I personally do. So collagen is basically one of the building blocks of your joints, ligaments, tendons, your bones. And just like in every part of our body, everything is always getting renewed. Meaning the skin that I have on today is not the skin that I had on 5 years ago. I don't know how often our skin renews. I think it's like every 30 days, maybe. But yeah, so it's the same thing with your joints, ligaments, and tendons. They all renew, they all rebuild themselves. So, and if you need a collagen recommendation, there's one that, by the way, guys, anytime I recommend a supplement to you, none of them are ever, I don't get kickbacks from them at all. And I will never recommend a product that I wouldn't personally take or that isn't completely healthy. And I also try to bargain shop. I try to find the cheapest high quality version. So I've searched around a lot for cheap collagen that was healthy, because collagen is really expensive. So yeah, if you guys need some recommendations or links, just let me know. Okay. Maria asks about upper body strengthening. Great question. So Maria, you would want to train, like I mentioned earlier, high intensity training. When you train that way, you only have to lift 2, maybe 3 times a week. Some people, when they train that way, they only need to lift once every 4 days. It's really individual in terms of your recoverability, but my point that I'm trying to drive across is if you train this way, high intensity training, you do not need to work out as much as most people will say you need to. Most people recommend working out 4 to 6 times a week. That's a lot. And our lives nowadays are so busy, and it's just not necessary. If you guys want examples of actual people who got amazing results, built amazing muscle and strength, won bodybuilding competitions doing this, are incredibly strong. I have a training on that. Let me know. I'll tag you in it. I also have a guide on it. So that's where you'd want to start, Maria. And then if you're training that way, you only have to do 1 to 2 sets per exercise. Now, for the exercises that you'd want to do to strengthen your upper body, you'd want 1 or 2 horizontal pushing exercises. So that would be like bench press. You could do humeral adduction, which would be like chest flies. You would want to do, and that would work the whole chest and the front delts, as well as the triceps. You'd also want to do something for shoulders, which could be something like overhead press, which works the delts, the traps, and the triceps. You could do something like lateral raises, like that. For your back, I recommend always having at least 1 vertical pulling exercise. So that would be like pull-ups or chin-ups, and 1 horizontal pulling exercise. So that would be like row. And then you've targeted your whole upper body. And I covered this before, last week actually. For your abs, if you're working your whole body, you're doing a combination of compound and isolation exercises, and you're training to failure, you're lifting hard and heavy, you don't need to do ab exercises to have abs, or to even strengthen your abs. So if y'all want the reasons why on that, just let me know. I have a whole video and training on that as well. Okay, let's see who else. Okay. All right, so I think that's all the questions. Let me double check. Cool. Yeah, that's all the questions. Thanks, guys.
All right.
I
think that's all.
Okay, thanks guys for joining. Thanks for asking questions. Let me know if you guys like these Q&As, and then the next time I do them, just make sure that you ask a question, and that way I can give you answers and help you. So I will see you guys soon.